One day, as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach them. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way.
I'm Lou, and we're continuing this morning with our series, A Whole New World. A whole new world. The song is still stuck in my head, but today we're going to be looking at God blesses those who are merciful. You know, this series, I found it really refreshing, and to put what I've heard into action, I've also found it quite humbling. You know, speaking of humbling experiences, I've had a couple this week. Last week I got an email from LinkedIn saying somebody was interested in me. They were viewing my profile. Wow. Now those of you who know me know that I'm not particularly career driven, but you know, if someone wants to headhunt me, that's all right by me. So I excitedly clicked that link and found that I was being viewed by an accounting firm in West Bengal. I don't even like maths. Oh, never mind. Anyway, and then the other day, I was clearing out the loft and I found my old autograph book from my youth. And I thought to myself, I wonder which good-looking celebrities, which of my teenage crushes did I get the autographs of? And I found this one, snooker player Willie Thorne. And this one, snooker player Dennis Taylor. And this one, football legend Bobby Charlton. Now, the one thing these three men have in common is that they're middle-aged, balding men when I got their autographs. It wasn't really the autograph book experience that I'd hoped for. Never mind. Do you know what? Last summer, I did also almost meet one of my heroes, and social distancing prevented it. Do you want to hear that story? Okay, here goes. I'm in Londis in Abersock, and I've just gone to Londis to get some low sugar Vimto. It's Caleb's favourite. And I was stood in the queue observing social distancing rules. So I didn't particularly pay much notice to the people in front of me. When I got to the cashier, she was all flushed and she was saying to her colleague, "That was him! That was him! I've just served Bear Grylls." And I was like, really? Bear Grylls? Oh my goodness, one of my heroes. Oh my word, I'd read his biography the other year and I just love his attitude to life. And I said to her, wow, you just saw Bear Grylls. Oh, how long ago was that? And she said, I was the customer just before you. Ah! Anyway, it keeps you humble. So I best now start looking at what I'm meant to be talking about, which is God blesses those who are merciful. Let's start with what mercy is. See, it's not a word that I use very often. In fact, I've only come across the word mercy when you play that game where you grip someone's hands, interlock them into yours like that, and then you try and bend their wrist backwards and get them to say the word mercy. Has anyone else played that? Classic game. But the word mercy often appears in the Bible, and it can mean a good definition of it is being stirred by emotions, showing compassion, responding to distress with a practical effort to relieve distress. See, that unpacks the word a little bit more, doesn't it? Now, there's many situations that we know about right now that are causing people distress. The merciful are stirred by emotions, show compassion, and respond with practical action to relieve distress. Now, you might be sat there thinking, how can I right now? I can't leave my house. I cannot give people a hug. I can't sit on someone's sofa and have a brew with them. I'm just about keeping my head above water. I can't help someone else. I'm exhausted. I've got nothing left to give. I can't be bothered. I'm rubbish, God. Use someone else. Now, church, if we've learned anything this year, we've learned to adapt and find a new approach. How can we be merciful right now? Do you know what? We can start by praying. We can say, God, break my heart with the things that break your heart. Do you know, our compassionate responses, they come from the mercy and compassion that God's poured into our lives anyway. So let's get our hearts ready for the opportunities that God will bring our way to be compassionate. And if we start by praying, then all the I can't thoughts will become, you can, Lord. I'm going to take you now to Luke 8, where we see compassion in action. We're going to meet two people. For one, 12 years of joy seem to be coming to an end. And for the other, 12 years of suffering and isolation were expected to end. Both receive from Jesus a response that relieves their distress. From Luke 8, starting at verse 40. Now when Jesus came back to Galilee, the crowd received and welcomed him gladly, for they were all waiting and looking for him. And there came a man named Jairus, who had for a long time been a director of the synagogue. And falling at the feet of Jesus, he begged him to come to his house. For he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. As Jesus went, the people pressed together around him, almost suffocating him. And a woman who had suffered for 12 years from a flow of blood and had spent all her living upon doctors and could not be healed by anyone, she came up behind Jesus and touched the fringe of his garment. And immediately her flow of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who is it? Who touched me?" When all were denying it, Peter and those who were with him said, "Master, the multitudes surround you and press you on every side." But Jesus said, "Someone did touch me, for I perceived that healing power had gone from me." And when the woman saw that she had not escaped notice, she came up trembling, and falling down before him, she declared in the presence of all the people for what reason she had touched him and how she had been instantly cured. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith, your confidence and trust in me has made you well. Go enter into peace, untroubled, undisturbed well-being." While he was still speaking, a man from the house of the director of the synagogue came and said to Jairus, "Your daughter is dead. Do not weary and trouble the teacher any further." But Jesus, on hearing this, answered him, "Do not be seized with alarm or struck with fear. Simply believe, and she will be made well." And when he came to the house, he permitted no one to enter with him except Peter and John and James and the girl's mother and father. And all were weeping and bewailing her, but he said, "Do not weep. She is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed him to scorn, knowing full well that she was dead. And grasping her hand, he called, saying, "Child, arise from the sleep of death." And her spirit returned from death, and she arose immediately. And he directed that she should be given something to eat. And her parents were amazed, but he charged them to tell no one what had occurred. Preceding this passage, Jesus had healed a man from a legion of demons. I reckon Jesus must have been exhausted. And then the crowds were pressing in so much, it was suffocating. But within this story, amongst the crowds, there's two individuals that stand out. Jairus was a synagogue ruler, and up to this point, the leaders of the synagogue had been very cynical about Jesus. They tried to discredit what he did. They were asking lots of questions. But this man comes sorrow-driven. He's run out of his own resource. He comes to Jesus almost as a last resort for the healing of his daughter. Then there's a woman. Now, I love it when Jesus encounters those who are outcast from society, because he restores value to them. And it's beautiful to watch the transformation. Now, this woman had been bleeding for 12 years. Just to put that in context, I thought I'd show you a few family photos from 12 years ago. Here they are. That is a long time. Just to put that in context, when Marcus and I first got married, I took a form of contraception, and one of the side effects on my body was that I bled non-stop for a year. I lost a lot of energy, I lost a lot of weight, I was in pain. That was 1 year. This woman had been enduring this suffering for 12 years. Just to put that in context, in Leviticus 15, verses 19 to 33, you can check out what the law says about bleeding and hemorrhaging. This woman will have had no hugs to comfort her for 12 years. This woman may have even been distanced from her family and friends. She was untouchable. She was unclean. She was very isolated. She had no value. She had no money. She came to Jesus, empty of herself, but full of faith. And what I love is that when Jesus recognises who she is and she emerges out of the crowd, he calls her daughter. He restores her value. He immediately uses a word that speaks of family, that speaks of love. And he says these beautiful words to her. Go enter into peace, undisturbed, untroubled well-being. That's the gift she gets alongside her physical healing. How beautiful is Jesus' compassion. As he says these words, almost cutting across them straight away, is another pronouncement. Your daughter is dead. There's Jairus in the background, the other individual who's come out of this crowd and who receives the compassion of Jesus. Now Jesus goes to his house. In Jairus' mind, it's too late. But no, Jesus makes it clear. You need to believe. He responds with compassion, and Jairus' daughter is brought back to life. Wow. I love reading about Jesus' compassion, how he shows it to individuals. Does exhaustion stop Jesus? No. Does the scorn of other people, the fear of what people will think of him, does that stop him showing compassion? No. You see, when we give our lives to God completely, then we get a wonderful gift. We receive the gift of the Holy Spirit who lives in us and enables us to live like Jesus lived. I want to be more like Jesus. I want to show compassion at every opportunity that I'm given. I want to be part of God's plan to restore value in the lives of individuals. I want to be part of a church that is compassionate. I'm back. It's like the third Lord of the Rings movie where you thought it had ended and it hasn't. And that's because I've only really unpacked the first part of what Jesus said. You see, the blessing goes like this. God blesses those who are merciful and compassionate, for they will receive mercy. You see, God's given so much. He's not withheld anything, not even his own precious Son. Jesus was sent to the world so that we could be forgiven, so that we could be shown the fullest extent of mercy, receiving what we didn't deserve. Freely we've been given. Freely we can give. You see, it's worth at this point stopping to take a moment and ask God to examine our hearts. Would we withhold what God has given us from someone else? Is there any hard-heartedness, judgmentalism, bitterness, hurt from the past, or unforgiveness that would stop us being compassionate and merciful to someone else? We need to consider that. We need to ask the Holy Spirit, search us through and through and reveal to us anything that would stop us relieving other people's distress because we haven't quite let go of something in our own lives. We need to be that channel through which God can show his mercy. Whatever we've received from God, we cannot withhold from someone else. I need to be more like Jesus. That is a prayer of mine. And as we reflect on this verse, I really hope that it's helped you to be inspired and motivated to be ready to show compassion and mercy at every opportunity God gives you. And I hope it's also giving you a sense of gratitude for all that we've received from God. Let us not just take that from God and not give it out to others. What an amazing God we serve. What a gracious God we have. It's wonderful, isn't it? Right, that's it. It's time to end now. I know that the third Lord of the Rings movie had about 4 endings, but I'm not going to go that far and you'd just get fed up with me anyway. Keep holding on to hope. Keep looking to Jesus. He is the author and perfecter of our faith and enables us to do more than we could hope or imagine. Just keep hold of him. These times aren't easy and they are wearing us down, but we're not going to be defeated by them. We're going to develop that patient endurance and character and hope that we see in our Jesus.
Perhaps today you've been affected in some way or touched by God in your emotions, in your thinking. You want to know more perhaps. Maybe you know that you're in need of mercy, or you know that actually you're not giving the mercy to others, the compassion to others as you've received. Then why don't you get in touch? We want to walk that journey with you. And if maybe you want to know more about Jesus, the incredible man who we believe is God, who spoke these incredible words about life in his kingdom, get in touch today. Talk more at newlifelancaster.org.uk, or you can also find us on Facebook, New Life Church Lancaster. We would love to be in contact with you. Also, just to say, next week we will not be meeting on this platform on New Life Church Online. We are going to be having a Zoom call as we do at the beginning of every month. The first Sunday we'll be breaking bread, taking that the Lord's Supper, as some people call it, together as a church. You're welcome to come. Get into contact with us. We'll give you the Zoom details so that you can connect with God's family here in Lancaster. Have a great week. God bless you.
As each day passes by, I feel my love run dry. I get so weary, worn, and tossed round in the storm. I'm blind to other needs, and I'm tired of planting seeds. I seem to have a wealth, so many thoughts about myself. I need to be more like Jesus. I need to be more like him. Our Father's will was done by giving us his Son, who paid the highest cost and pointed us to the cross. And when I think of him taking on the whole world's sin, I take one look at me compared to what I'm called to be. I need to be more like There's no greater love than to lay down your life for a friend. The end of all my prayers is to care like my Lord cares. My one and only goal, His image in my soul. Yes, my weakness is revealed when by His stripes I'm healed. He's faithful and He's true.